President Obama will be walking an incredibly fine political and historical line in just a few hours. As Kevin Corke mentioned earlier, he will become the first sitting U.S. leader to go to Hiroshima, site of the world's first wartime use of an atomic bomb. Skeptical observers all over the world will be listening for anything that even approaches an apology. Correspondent Doug McKelway looks at what's on the line for President Obama.
As World War II grows more distant, contemporary historians increasingly subscribe to the narrative the atom bombs were unnecessary, that their use left a stain on the United States, one that the president's visit to Hiroshima may reinforce. He was asked by a Japanese reporter if he will apologize.
No, because I think that it's important to recognize that in the midst of war, leaders make all kinds of decisions.
But the president's mere appearance at Hiroshima bothers some.
He is the first American president to go to Hiroshima, and that is sending to me a signal of apologizing for America. We have nothing to apologize.
Long before Pearl Harbor, Japanese soldiers had demonstrated a penchant for barbarity. In her book, The Rape of Nanking, author Iris Chang describes how in the invasion of China, Japanese troops massacred and raped tens of thousands of women, breasts sometimes sliced off with bayonets, one of many horrid atrocities. Under the ancient Japanese code of Bushido, the way of the warrior, it was disgraceful to surrender. The highest honor lay in death. It was a code not practiced by a few, as in the jihadis of today, but by virtually an entire nation.
People tend to forget there were 17 million people killed by the Japanese Empire between 1931 and 1945. That was not lost on the decision makers at the time.
As Allied forces advanced across the Pacific closer to Japan, the suicidal spirit among the Japanese soldiers only increased, culminating in the Battle of Okinawa. 12,000 Americans died there. More than 50,000 were wounded. Sailors desperately fought kamikazes from the sky, while soldiers rooted out suicidal defenders from entrenched fortifications amidst a landscape of bloated bodies, mud, maggots, and human excrement. And it was a small taste of what might lie ahead.
The fanaticism was incredible, which led the U.S. leadership to estimate that if, in fact, an invasion of mainland Japan would be required, there would be over 1 million U.S. casualties.
This is a letter that President Truman wrote to a newspaper columnist in 1963, long after the war ended. He wrote, quote, "I knew what I was doing when I stopped the war that would have killed 500,000 youngsters on both sides if those bombs had not been dropped. I've had no regrets, and under the same circumstances, I would do it again, and this letter is not confidential." The destructiveness of the A-bombs actually paled in comparison to the conventional incendiary attacks on upwards of 60 Japanese cities. One such attack on Tokyo in March of 1945 leveled 10 square miles of that city. That's an area roughly two-thirds the size of Manhattan. It killed 100,000 people, roughly twice the toll of the Nagasaki A-bomb attack. Right back to you.
Doug McKelway, live in Arlington. Doug, thanks.